going on, world? Today is day 155 of my Freedom from Addiction, and I had to read not Psalms, but Proverbs 5 today. I keep forgetting that we're in Proverbs, so it's just a habit. 150 Psalms, that's a lot of things. And so now we're in Proverbs, and there's only 31 Proverbs, so we'll move to something else after this next month of studying Proverbs. But today's proverb is a little bit more specific in what it's talking about. It talks about a specific type of sin that many of us have committed, in many different ways it can be committed, and even goes specifically to describe how this sin is committed. And it is talking about adultery. It's talking about the sin of sex, doing sexually immoral things. Specifically, cheating on your spouse. It talks about it pretty vividly, actually, and it's a sore subject for me because I got cheated on for a long time by my ex, and I used to read Proverbs 5. I actually knew of this proverb before I got out of that bad relationship that I was in for 7 years, and I used to read this proverb, and it used to just make me want to leave the woman when I should have, but I didn't. And luckily I found somebody better and that I love dearly. Anyways, let's just read the proverb. Proverbs 5 says, "My son, attend unto my wisdom, and bow thine ear to my understanding, that thou mayest regard discretion, and that thy lips may keep knowledge. For the lips of a strange woman drop as a honeycomb, and her mouth is smoother than oil, but her end is bitter as a wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. Her feet go down to death, her steps take hold on hell. Lest thou shouldest ponder the path of life, her ways are movable, that thou canst not know them. Hear me now, therefore, O ye children, and depart not from the words of my mouth. Remove thy way far from her, and come not nigh the door of her house. Lest thou give thine honor unto others, and thy years unto the cruel. Lest strangers be filled with thy wealth, and thy labors be in the house of a stranger. And thou mourn at the last, when the flesh and the body are consumed, and say, How I have hated instruction, and my heart despised reproof, and have not obeyed the voice of my teachers, nor inclined my ear to them that instructed me. I was almost in all evil in the midst of the congregation and assembly. Drink waters out of thine own cistern, and running waters out of thine own well. Let thy fountains be dispersed abroad, and rivers of waters in the streets. Let them be only thine own, and not strangers with thee. Let thy fountain be blessed, and rejoice with the wife of thy youth. Let her be as the loving hind and pleasant roe. Let her breast satisfy thee at all times, and be thou ravished always with her love. And why wilt thou, my son, be ravished with a strange woman, and embrace the bosom of a stranger? For the ways of man are before the eyes of the Lord, and he pondereth all his goings. His own iniquities shall take the wicked himself, and he shall be holden with the cords of his sins. He shall die without instruction, and in the greatness of his folly he shall go astray." And that's all. That's not all. The whole thing's not talking about specifically just cheating on spouse or adultery in general, but it is talking about adultery. It's talking about being with somebody that God doesn't want you to be with. And for a long time, I was with a person that, as time went on, I felt like God wasn't blessing the relationship, and God wasn't really telling me to stay with that person, and she might even be watching this now. Sorry, it's the truth. We weren't meant to be together. I'm meant to be with the one I'm with now. I do believe. I've prayed on it, and that's where I went wrong. I didn't pray over that relationship, and I just went for what was good for my eyes, or good for my pleasure, or good for my situation at the time, so. Breaking it down from verse to verse real quick here. Well, even though this is a specific situation it's talking about in Proverbs, it still talks about wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. Key verses. First verse, "My son, attend to my wisdom, and bow thine ear to my understanding." Well, if you had to listen to the guy from the beginning, you wouldn't end up with this strange woman. You know what I'm saying? that thou mayest regard discretion, and that thy lips may keep knowledge. So from the beginning of this proverb, he's saying, keep wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, and you won't have to go through this stuff. But if you don't, this is what will happen to you. And then it starts talking about the strange woman. Now, another example of a word that means the same thing as strange in this context is immoral. See, some people argue this proverb even to say that you're not supposed to be with people of other races and stuff like that. I'm in an interracial relationship myself, and I just don't agree with that. I don't believe the Bible talks about that whatsoever. What it means, if it ever hints to that concept of not being with certain types of women or men, is talking about not being with someone who don't believe in God. And that's what it means. We're all people. We're all God's people. It don't matter what color you are, and I just want to put that out there. It doesn't matter what color you are. We're God's people. We're all human beings. And I don't believe it was meant to stick to our own kind of color uh, simply for the fact that, the world is really big. And how are we supposed to do that? Like there's so many different people out here. I'm not just going to stay out here in the country sticks looking for me a white lady. Or I'm not going to go back over to Europe, over in England, just to find me a white lady. If I find somebody I love that's a different color, which I have, I'm going to be with her. And that's just the way it is. Anyways, back on the subject. The specifics of a strange woman. That's meaning an immoral woman, someone who doesn't believe in the Lord. It doesn't necessarily mean a woman from some other race or country. See, and in verse 3, it's talking about how she'll sweet talk you and try to seduce you. And how many times have us men gone through that? And how many times have us men put women through that? Just sweet talk somebody just to get what we want. And that's what this is talking about. This proverb could be reversed, and it could be a strange man trying to go after women, trying to get what he wants. It really could. So we got to look at it both ways here. But in today's society, it could be a man and a man. God forbid. But let's don't go there. Talking about the strange woman seducing the man with her voice and her sweet talk, but in the end, she's going to be bitter because she didn't live a godly life. And verse 4 is what that's talking about. And then it talks about. Oh, I know. Yeah. And verse 5 talking about her feet go down to death, her steps take hold on hell. Well, if we give in to this seductory, and we, get, the best of us. Sometimes, these women get the best of us. We're men. We want what we want. We like what we like, and women can play on that, and it works both ways. Men can play on women's weaknesses as well. Not trying to be sexist or anything like that, but but it just says, once we go to that path of unrighteousness, so we can be with these others that we think are meant for us that aren't, that's going to lead to death and hell. Because we chose to be with somebody that doesn't believe in the Lord. That's not God ordained, and that's something that God doesn't approve of, and we just can't go there. We can't do it. And then it talks about her ways are ways that are going to lead to destruction, and and then verse 7 and 8 simply just tells us, hey, it's not too late to get away. Remove thyself from her ways. Get away from these people. Get away from this woman, this strange woman. Get away from this strange man. If you were a woman in this situation, God forbid a man get away from a man. But yeah, definitely do that if you're in that situation. Get away from him, please. Verse 8, remove thy way far from her. Come not to don't not go to the night to the door of her house. Don't go to their house. Definitely don't do that. Because guess what? This is what it's talking about. Lest strangers be filled with thy wealth, and thy labors be in the house of a stranger. Verse 10, that's talking about, well, hey, you go to this woman's house. Well, wow, how she got a house? First of all, back in these days, women didn't work, didn't make money. So obviously she's got a man, out there working, paying for this house, and you're in it. Now, what's he going to do when he shows up and you in there with his lady? You a dead meat. You dead. I mean, back then it wasn't a thing just to kill somebody over something like that. And today it's not neither. Even though you probably go to jail. I mean, that's death sentence there. So this is a simple proverb. Really, just don't go after other people's wives and don't cheat on your wife, as it goes on to say. Verse 12 and 13 simply says, if you're in this situation and you've gone this far, you have you do have hated instruction. Your heart despised the reproof that's been given to you, the corrections that was tried to be taught to you. You didn't obey your teachers. You didn't listen to them. You were almost on the verge of all destruction, verse 14. Um, but moving on down, 15 through 17, just talking about, more about, don't let your belongings belong to others. Simply meaning, okay, so you went to this other woman's house, but then while her man got home, even if you didn't get caught up, he's benefiting off of you. Especially if you give the woman money or you provide it for her like you think you're supposed to be with her and all, and he's just benefiting off of your helping him out. You're benefiting his wife while he's gone, and he comes back and he enjoys the spoils of what you've given him. So I believe that's kind of what this is talking about, and maybe not. I don't know. I didn't research it, but it's just what I get from it. But verse 18 is a key verse here. Let thy fountain be blessed and rejoice the wife that you use. So obviously, whoever he's speaking to, what this is pointed towards is a man that already has a wife who's going after another woman who also has a husband. And so it's a big mess here. Some Jerry Springer type stuff going on. And, you know, he had a wife his whole life from his youth. Why not enjoy what she has to offer? And verse 19 and 20 talk about it. Verse 19 talk about let the wife that you actually have already satisfy you and be embraced and ravished by her love. Don't go after nobody else. Why would you do that? You married this woman you love, be with her. Excuse me. Yeah, sometimes I sneeze on video. And so, I'm getting on 13 minutes here, but this is a serious subject, Verse 20 says, why be ravished with the strange woman and embrace the bosom of a stranger? Forgive my language, forgive my slang, but I've heard people from my hometown, they used to call it getting some strange. I believe that's where it came from, where that term came from, when they talk about it going out and being with somebody else, even though they had a woman cheating on their wives, I never cheated on nobody, by the way. I want that to be known. Never, ever, ever in my life ever cheat on nobody when I was actually in a relationship, fully engaged in the relationship. Never cheated. So I just want that to be known, and I'm not ever going to do it neither. I love the woman I'm with, and I hope we get married soon and all that. But this talking about getting some strange. The man done left his wife to go get somebody else, and then come back to her. But he's telling him, enjoy the wife you have. Quit going after these strange women. God is watching. Verse 21, the ways of man are before the eyes of the Lord, and he's pondereth all his goings. His iniquities are going to take hold of him, and he's going to die without instruction. So obviously, if he continues this life of adultery, he's going to stumble and he's going to die without instruction. Because if he had took heed of the instruction, he would not be doing what he's doing. You see? And that's the last verse, verse 23. He dies without instruction, and in his folly he goes astray. So let's don't be like the man in Proverbs 5 who went out and done what he did. Don't cheat on your wife. Don't cheat on your girlfriend. Don't cheat on your fiancé. Don't go after strange women. For one thing, today's society, you're going to catch a disease. Secondly, it's wrong. She might have a husband. Thirdly, you could get killed if you're caught. And God is watching. That's the most important thing. You're committing adultery. It's against the rules. God said don't do it. Don't do it. Find somebody sweet and nice and kind to you. Love them and treat them good. And be in a good God-ordained relationship. That's the lesson for today. Proverbs 5. Thank you for your time. And God bless.